Hi friends, this is Kim, the lifelong reader, and welcome to my channel where we talk about everything books and reading. If you're looking for a book-loving community to stimulate your bookish mind, stick around because I've got 3 questions to do just that. Question number 1 asks, what is a book you own simply because it's beautiful? And I could answer this with probably a dozen different books, and I'm sure you could too. We all have our favorite print books that we think are just gorgeous, from vintage copies to first editions to tiny little pocket-sized books. Especially if you shop in secondhand stores or thrift stores or book fairs, you can run into a lot of really cool things. So your mind is probably thinking I'm about to show you maybe a vintage copy or an antique copy of some really cool book. But what I'm going to show you was probably printed somewhere around, I don't know, let's see, 1987? Let me see when this was printed. Oh goodness, 1992. Boy, I'm really dating myself. So this is Dragonfly in Amber, and this is the second book in the Outlander series by Diana Gabaldon. And I ran into this gigantic beauty in a thrift store. You can see that beautiful binding there, hopefully. And the absolutely gorgeous back with this cute little couple over here. And some marvelous tartan and a little silver cup or silver chalice. Just a gorgeous, oh, and look, there's a dragonfly on the edge of the cup. So a gorgeous book that I was absolutely thrilled to run into because I discovered the original Outlander book, volume 1, in a thrift store as well. I read the premise and I thought, that might be good. And I brought it home and I started reading it and I never wanted it to stop. In fact, I've read it at least twice and listened to it on audio. And that's just what happens when you're a book nerd. So there's book 2. And guess what? The same day I ran into book 3, Voyager by Diana Gabaldon. So, of course, we have, again, the lovely tartan. We have a ship. That must be why it's called Voyager, right? And then that beautiful binding. And then, of course, very vintage-looking Diana Gabaldon on the back of the jacket. So, again, another really cool find that I was simply stoked to get and bring home. I haven't read either of these. By the way, this was printed in 1994. So I haven't read either of these, but you bet your booty, they look really marvelous on my bookshelf when they're side by side. And again, this question is asking about why, what's a book you own simply because it's beautiful. So you kind of have to stretch your imagination for beautiful, but to me, these vintage books are super beautiful. Now, when I was living through 1992 and 1994, I would never have thought that was beautiful. I'm not sure what I would have thought about it. I probably would have took one look at that and said, holy cow, no thank you. But I would encourage you, if you are at all curious about the Outlander series, the books are long, but they're not hard to get through. The one that took me the longest to get through, I think, was number 5, The Fiery Cross. That felt like it dragged a lot at the beginning, but the rest of them are so action-packed. And even if you just read the first couple, they're definitely worth your time. So, okay, second question is asking, what is one reading habit that you wish you could change about your reading life? And for me, I have a few reading habits, but the number one reading habit that I think would be best if I got rid of is the habit of reading fast. I'm a naturally fast reader, and when I do that, I am happy because I'm being productive and I'm seeing the progress of getting through the book, but I'm also, it's not that I'm skimming, but I'm reading so quickly that I'm losing a lot of the narrative. I'm losing the nuance of the story. I'm losing the savoring of the beautiful prose. And sometimes you'll end a book thinking that it really wasn't as good as it actually was if you would have slowed down and taken your time to read through it. So how I combat that, sometimes if I start a book and I feel like I'm having trouble getting into this and I'm just reading really quickly to get through it, I will actually see if my library has a copy of the audiobook. And if they do, I will actually read the book silently as I listen to the audiobook. And sometimes I'll even slow an audiobook down a little bit, or I might need to speed it up depending on the reading style of the narrator. But that's an excellent way to kind of get myself more engaged in the story. That happens to me a lot. I'll start a book and I'll be reading way too fast, and I just won't pick up on all the wonderful aspects of the novel, and I'll miss out on a lot. So the audio can really kind of pull you in. That's another thing to mention. If anyone is struggling to find resources for reading, I know books can be expensive. I've bought a lot of my books in thrift stores and secondhand stores over the years. I've bought a lot of cheap ebooks over the years, and I've visited a lot of little free libraries over the years. I utilize my library mostly in an electronic fashion. My library gives me access to 2 different reading apps, and it's the most amazing thing. Once I actually discovered it, probably about 7 years ago, that my library would let me do electronic books and also audiobooks. That's fantastic. So if you haven't taken advantage of that and you do have a smartphone or a tablet of some kind, I encourage you to do that. Audiobooks can really bring books into your life so much more than if you don't read them. I listen to them when I'm doing housework or when I'm doing yard work of all kinds, when I'm getting ready for work in the morning, on the commute. You might have a paper book going and you're loving it so much, you will get the audiobook just so you can keep that delicious read going while you have things that you absolutely must do. Cooking, put in your ear pods and just start cooking and listen to your audiobook. It's marvelous. It's marvelous. So, all right. Last question, number 3 asks, what is a book that you've read more than once that improved upon rereading? And again, I could answer this in so many different ways because I've been reading for so long. But I chose for today Emily Bronte's Wuthering Heights. This novel I really, really wanted to like. And the reason I really, really wanted to like this novel was because I love Jane Eyre. And I know Jane Eyre was not written by Emily Bronte, but when I discovered at roughly 45 years of age, Jane Eyre, and I read it, I started to research who is Charlotte Bronte, and I discovered that Charlotte is the sister of Emily and Anne. And I determined at that moment, I want to read these 3 ladies, and I'm going to love them just like I love Charlotte. So imagine your reading life, it just feels like it opens up. You've got all these new possibilities of things you want to read. So after I finished Jane Eyre, and I had this copy of Wuthering Heights, I read it for the first time, and this is a Gothic novel, as is Jane Eyre. But Jane Eyre has a hopefulness and a self-respect and a budding love and a faith in God that helps to combat the Gothic parts of the tale. This book doesn't have that. So I felt like I was trapped in a bit of a family drama, and I got lost in all of the names that are very similar. And again, I actually slipped into fast reading mode, Kim, just so I could get through it and say, okay, I finished that, it's done. But I really didn't like it. And I know this book is polarizing. Some people absolutely adore it and some people don't. So I put this back on the shelf and I read Agnes Grey by Anne Bronte, and I liked that book. And then I read The Tenant of Wildfell Hall by Anne Bronte, and I liked that book. And I thought, okay, I have to give this book another try. I picked it up and I read through it again. And I honestly think I've read through it 3 times. And the more I read it, the more I slow down and I immerse myself in the characters and I think about where they're coming from, what they've been through. it has improved upon rereading. I do like the story now. I do see that it has a place on my shelf, and that I really wish Emily died very shortly after this novel was published. I really wish that she had been able to write more. She does have poetry. Unfortunately, I'm not much of a poetry reader. I don't really like poetry all that much. So that's a disadvantage to me, that I won't get to enjoy her poetry. But this novel, again, improved upon rereading. This may be your favorite novel, and you may be appalled that I'm talking about it this way. But again, if you're like me, which I know some people are, and you picked it up and it just didn't hit right for you the first time, I would encourage you to try it again and see if you can't find the beauty in the novel. Now, when I discovered the Brontes, I wanted to do as much research about them as I could, and I was absolutely mesmerized by their story. They published their first novels under pen names to make themselves sound like men. And eventually their novels were so popular that they kind of had to come clean because people wanted to meet them and wanted to know who they were. I mean, that is an absolutely amazing story. And to me, as a reader and as a woman, it just got me super excited to read more of them. So that's 3-question Thursday. I hope you enjoyed that. I'd love to hear what you have to share for the questions or any other comments about any of the books or your reading habits. So I'll be back to see you soon with more questions. Until then, happy reading.